Y'all, we are a tough topic today, and I feel very fortunate to have Jarah Decker joining me today. Jarah actually earned her real estate license back in April of 2017, and then she and her husband sold their house in San Antonio, moved clear across Texas, which is no small feat. I think we met actually back in 2019? So it was after
Pro
you'd kind of gotten in your real estate going.
Probably I was trying to figure out the buyer's spread.
I think it was like December 2019, so just right on the edge. I think I looked and said, "When did I meet Jarah?" But I've had fun getting to know you, and you've accomplished a lot in the last several years. Let's go 5 years, even 6 years. Although you have been this amazing top producer in the Permian Basin area, which if you're listening and you don't know where that is, I've never been, but it's Midland and Odessa, Texas, which is
Armpit in
no.
Texas.
Oh, it's not. I'm sure it's incredible, but that's no small feat, and it's actually an incredible accomplishment in itself, is having that top producer title because it tells everybody that you don't play. But you've got a special story that unfortunately too many people can relate to, and it's not an easy topic to touch on. So you got your real estate license back in April 2017, closed your first transaction in December of that same year, and you relocated your family. You had to restart your business basically from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And
Lucky for me, I'm from West Texas. I grew up in Midland. So I did have friends and family here, which
and you
that
had
I am eternally grateful for.
right? And
I
you
have
have your
6.
kids and grandkids there too, though.
Yes, yes. I have 6 grandchildren. 4 of them live right here in town. So I'm especially close to them. Most of my clients have met my grandchildren. I have a grandson that is my sidekick, and he knows my clients by name and recognizes them when we see them in public. And he can
That's
tell
amazing.
me, well, he knows my clients better than I do. I
Well,
ran
I
it.
would say that's hard to do, but I'll go with that.
Well, I ran into a client at an oil show event here a month or so ago. And I'll be honest, I did not recognize him. And he started talking. And I went along with the conversation, and then he said, so and so will be here shortly." So he walks away, and I checked my phone and went, "Oh, yeah, that's who that was."
It happens when you meet so many people and we come
Well, I
into
was
life for such a
I
short
was
time.
telling my grandson, and he went, "Oh, Nanny, that was so and so." And I went, "How did you know that?"
That's
Oh,
amazing.
he said, "Because he always called you Miss Jarrah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough." But I didn't catch it.
Right?
Well, he keeps me honest.
That's
No,
awesome.
he's always with me. He keeps me honest.
You moved back to Midland, so let's fast forward just to, 2018. How was your first year back?
Oh, it's awful. Let's see. Let's see if I can tell you real quick. On January the 15th, I landed a deal, a $6.7 million deal, and it literally walked through the door.
Mhm.
This guy called me and said, "Are you open?" And I said, "Oh, yes, sir." Well, it's a holiday. I don't know what holiday it is, but it's a holiday. So the guy comes in, he starts talking about his property, and I'm wild eyed because I don't have any idea. It's 460 acres, and yes, I'm interested. And
Right.
anyway, he at the end of our conversation, he looked at me and he said, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "I am hungry." And he said, "Then you need to be my realtor." Actually called me a realtor. And I
Oh,
said,
really?
"Yeah." I said, "I'd be happy to be your realtor." So I called my husband, and I was supposed to go see 2 of my grandkids. I was meeting him in Odessa, and I called him and said, "Hey, I had to call my broker. I just landed this $1 million deal. I can't be there." And he said, "Okay, babe, do whatever you gotta do." He hangs up, and then he called me back and he said, "Did you say million with an M?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "Oh, that's awesome, baby. I can't wait to hear all about it."
That's awesome.
So by the time I got home about 7 that evening, and he's exhausted. He was a dialysis patient. but he was working full time and doing really well. He was on the list to do a kidney transplant,
Uh-huh.
and we had already identified a donor. We were just waiting on a surgery date. Anyway, he's exhausted, and he said, "Come in here and talk to me. Tell me what happened." So I'm telling him all about this listing that I've landed and what I need to do, and I'm busy and I'm scared, but I'm excited. And he said, and it's prophetic at this point. He said, "When you sell it, and you will, take that check over to Thurston Johnson at Edward Jones.
Okay.
That will start you a nice little retirement fund." Okay. What
Thinking ahead, being,
he was
wise.
always that way. He was always
Yeah.
that way. So fast forward next day, I leave to go to work. Um, I'll tell you the whole story. I'm leaving to go to work. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with a chronic illness, there is a lot of frustration and it's exhausting and it's frustrating. And you just want them to eat and you just want them to be normal and you're not normal anymore. And your whole life has already changed. So there was a lot of times that I've walked out that back door. I would yell, "John Decker, you're driving me crazy." And he would yell back, "Well, you ain't no peach yourself, darling." I mean, there was some toxicity going on.
Right.
But this particular morning, it was very, very cold. And he came in the bedroom. I'm getting dressed to go to the office. And he came in the bedroom and he had his jacket zipped all the way up to his chin. And
Uh-huh.
he had on this huge toboggan. And I'm just looking at him. He's in the shadows. And I said, "You look absolutely ridiculous." And he said, "I'm absolutely going to freeze to death today." But when I leaned in to kiss him, he had that, I don't know, as a mom and as a wife, he had that smell like he was getting sick. And I said, "You need to take some Alka Seltzer Cold Plus." And he said, "Oh, well, I forgot." And I said, "Did you do a breathing treatment?" And he said, "No, I forgot. I'll do that." And I said, "Go do that." So I finished getting dressed. I walked through the house, got my coffee, picked up all of my things, and I'm headed out of the back door. And I stuck my head in his bedroom. He was doing a breathing treatment. And I said, "I got to go. I'll see you tonight." And he said, "I'm going to love you all day." I said,
Perfect.
"I'm going to love you all day too, baby. Be safe. I love you. I'll see you tonight." And I
I
walked
love
out the back
that.
door. I will forever be grateful. I can't tell you how many times I've walked out that back door screaming, "Fuck you, John Decker, you're driving me crazy."
Right. Anybody who's married, I would imagine, would do the same thing,
We've all
right?
done it. We've said things that we don't mean to say. My advice to everyone who's married, who's not married, who's in a relationship is let your words be tender. I went to work. I had my meeting with my broker. We had an office meeting. I'm excited about my new listing. I'm doing research. I had sent him a text about 11:30 and said, "Hey, have you heard from your doctor? He had an appointment in San Antonio, but I need to make a hotel reservation for Friday." And I'm texting him, I'm texting his doctor. He's not answering. I started calling about 12:05 and his phone kept going straight to voicemail. And I don't know why. Okay, he's a field salesman for an oil company. So a lot of times he's out of range. But it was unusual that I hadn't heard from him throughout the morning. He's not answering my text messages. Normally he'll get a text, but his phone's going directly to voicemail. There's no ringing. Anyway, about 4:30 that afternoon, I started freaking out. I don't know where he's at. He didn't show up for dialysis. I'm pretty much losing my mind. And I had this heavy, heavy feeling that something was wrong. And I had called my best friend and I said, "I need you to come down here. I think something's wrong."
Yeah.
So I had called his employer. I can't even identify his work truck. I mean, he drives a white truck. It sits in my driveway, but I only see one side
Oh
of
my
it.
God. Do you know how many white trucks there are in Texas, just alone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know what it says on the side, and I know there's a dent in the bed. That's pretty much all I can tell him. So I called his employer. The boss is gone. They don't want to connect to me. So I go through all this crap. And I finally called DPS. Anyway, fast forward about 6:30 that evening, the sheriff showed up and they had found John on a location in Andrews and he was deceased. He had had a heart attack in his pickup during lunch. And and I'm not trying to be glib. John used to tell me, baby, if you don't stop spending money, I'm going to have to work till lunch the day of my funeral. He would tell me this all the time.
Oh, wow.
And he literally passed with his lunch in his lap. So he did work till lunch the day of his funeral. Well, not the day of his funeral, but he worked till
Close
lunch.
enough.
Yeah. So he passed on January the 16th. My world stopped. Just
Can
stopped. I
you
mean,
imagine?
I don't know what to do. I don't even know who to call. I called one of my friends from San Antonio that was in our Bible study group. And I remember putting my head on the cabinet and I'm crying on the phone. And I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. She said, Jarah, you have to call your kid. Oh no, I can't call them. I don't want to talk to them. So I finally, my best friend's walking around. I carry a notepad everywhere I go. And they have some of the damnedest lists in them, but I always have a notepad. So I had a notepad on the bar and I handed it to my friend and she started taking notes. And I found it a couple of years ago where she wrote everything. I was rattling off names, people that I needed to contact. I didn't want his friends or his family to find out in social media. And John was well established in the oil industry. He had lots and lots of folks that he knew, lots of friends, lots of clients, customers. So I was handling my business.
Right.
I handled my business. It probably wasn't the healthiest way to handle it, but I handled my business. So John passed on was on a Tuesday. On Thursday, I got an offer on one of my listings. Well, I don't know how to work an offer. I've never done one. And I called my broker and said, I got this offer. And she said, if you'll send it to me, I'll handle it. I'll just take it over from here.
Right.
Well, no, I need to get paid. I mean, we're realtors. If we don't work, we don't eat. So
Exactly.
I need to do it. So it took me about 4 hours to do what should have taken me 45 minutes. But I worked the offer, got it accepted, executed, the whole 9 yards. And then on Saturday, I had his celebration of life service and I was still handling my business. There were no tears. It was all business. And
Okay,
on,
wait. How did you do that? I mean, not to pull at an emotion, but your husband just passed. You had to tell your kids. You had everything to have to deal with, and you're worried about a real estate transaction?
yeah, yeah,
How do you have bandwidth?
I don't know the answer to that. I have Sarah's ran out of bandwidth and I started meeting with a trauma counselor
Okay,
and she explained it to me that it was a trauma response, the way I responded to everything.
right.
It was probably, I don't know, 3, 4 months late. John traveled a lot for work. He would leave on Sunday nights and came home on Thursday. So my answer to everything is, oh, John will be home on Thursday. In my
Okay,
brain, when he passed, John will be home on Thursday. It stuck. And that was where I was at. He will be home on Thursday. Well, he didn't come home on Thursday. And it's fast forward probably, I don't know, 4 months later, my nephew asked me if he could buy Uncle John's smoker. He said, what are you going to do with John's smoker? And I said, well, I'm going to leave it sit right there in the garage where it's at. He'll be home on Thursday. And he just looked at me and shook his head no. And I kept looking at him and he's shaking his head no. And I had my first major meltdown in his living room when reality hit me. He's not coming home on Thursday. I'm so back to that weekend. We had his service on Saturday,
Right.
and Monday was our 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So I had told everybody Sunday night, do not come to my house. Don't come to my house. I'm going to feel sorry for myself tomorrow and I want to do it alone. And I'm pretty forceful. So everybody's gone. I'm here by myself. I got up, made me a cup of coffee, which I never do. Okay. He was always the early riser. But he always delivered my first cup of coffee to the nightstand. Well, now I got to figure out how to do this shit myself. Get up. It's cold. Go make coffee. So I got a cup of coffee and I crawled back in bed and I'm kind of hiding under the covers. And I heard his voice. I've audibly heard, it's happened to me 3 times now where I have audibly heard his voice. And then he said, get out of that bed and go to work. You can rattle around this house tonight by yourself. He ain't wrong.
No,
Because if
but
I don't,
wow.
yeah. So I got up and went to work. I walked in the office and my colleagues were like, what the hell are you doing here? 'Cause they weren't prepared to see me. And
No,
I
I
went
could
to work. So I'm a new agent. I don't know anything about selling a prop. I don't have any buyers. I have one seller, but it's a $6.8 million listing. So I don't even know how to market it.
right,
So I did what I knew to do. I reached out to the contacts I had in the oil field. And I ended up having to present that listing to a water company at Cracker Barrel, of all places. Had no idea that Cracker Barrels were all the guys hang out. So I go to Cracker Barrel, but I'm scared. I'm not a public spokesperson by any
right,
means. And I'm not real refined. I kind of call it like I see it. You're bullshitting me. I'm going to tell you.
right,
I had called my client the night before and I said, please come with me. Please come with me. You know everything about your property. You know more than I do. You come and talk to them. And he said, Jarah, I've told you everything I know. You can do this. So as I'm pulling the parking lot, he called me and he said, listen to me. You have something they want. You own that room. You take control and you own that room. I have all the faith in the world in you. Okay, I can do this. So I did it. I went and I presented it. I answered all the questions. I fast forward. I didn't sell the land. My
right,
client ended up selling it himself for sale by owner about a year later. But I went and talked to my broker and I said, I have to make money. If I don't work, I don't eat. I don't even know if I can make my house payment. I mean, I don't have a job. I've always worked.
yeah,
I have 30 years in accounting. I've always worked, but I can't make the kind of money I need to make to be able to meet my monthly bills. John took care of everything.
uh-huh,
When we got married, he told me, I will be the man of the house. I will take care of business. And I said, cool. Does that mean that you're going to make sure my electricity doesn't get turned off?
right,
He said, yes, I will make sure no one turns off the electricity. Because being a single mom, oh, I knew I had to pay the electric bill this month and I could wait and pay the gas bill next month. And,
right.
you know, I, I literally was a juggling act.
How did you do it? How did you maintain some focus and get somewhere? Because you've got all these bills to pay and everything you've gotta do in this first year. What'd you do?
I hustled rentals. I did corporate rentals for oil companies moving their employees in. If
Hustle
you
is the word. You
hustle
couldn't
is
hustle if
right.
you did anything with that,
I worked 7 days a week. I would be at the office by 9
right?
and I worked until dark. I won't show after dark because I'm a chicken. So did riddles and I can, I even, I'm perpetually a smart ass. I had rented
I know
so
this
many,
about you, and I love it.
I had rented so many apartments that I could literally walk behind the property manager and give her spill. And here's the horseshoes, and here's the pool.
Right.
My clients would look at me like, "What are you doing?" Oh, sorry, I've heard it before. But, because they won't let me go show the apartments. I have to go with her. So I'm just behind her doing her gestures all good. Anyway, I started hustle rentals. And then I finally and I did open houses for everybody,
Yeah.
everybody. And I picked up my first client at an open house, and that was my first sale. I picked up that client and I sold them a house. And then I started picking up clients. I'm still doing rentals, but I started getting referrals and, Op City leave. I did Op
Way
City.
back in the yeah, they don't
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They're horrible now, but back in the day, I'm still the top. I've closed 17 million with Op City. I'm the top in our region on Op City leads.
That's
But
amazing in itself right there. I mean,
well,
what gave you the motivation to I mean, so you start out in a brand new career, you have to have somebody help you. I mean, what where did you find the tenacity?
pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go to work.
You had to do it.
I
Is that
did
what
it.
you're
I
saying?
just go to work. It's probably not a good grief response, but for me, if I'm working, I can focus on work.
Okay.
It's the coming home part that I don't like coming home. I don't wanna be at home. My house reminds me of John and what we had and what's gone, and it was hard. So in 2018, on my birthday, I took the day off. It was a Saturday. I took the day off, and I decided that I was going to change my house. So when we moved back into our house right before he died, John I told my niece I wanna do a gallery wall.
Right.
So her and her cousin came and they did this beautiful gallery wall and they finished it. And I went, "Oh God, I hate that. Can you take that down?" And John said, "Oh, I love it." It was so busy with my grandkids that, I mean, you would think nobody lived here but grandkids. There's all these canvases of my grandkids.
Right?
I couldn't even focus on the TV. I came home from work one day and I walked in the living room and I thought, "That's bullshit. I'm tired of looking at it." I took every one of those pictures down and threw them on John's bed. You wanted it? There you go. Now you got it. They were all on his bed. We didn't sleep together because he was so sick that we did not sleep. So he had his own
That's
room.
understandable.
So I put them all on his bed. And then come my birthday, I decided to redecorate. So I changed all the artwork, changed around the furniture, moved things out, moved things in. But I kinda made my living room my own. It
Okay.
helped. It helped. Because, you walk in and every night you walk in the living room and you see his chair and you expect to see the back of his bald head. And I'm always looking to see if he's sitting in his chair. So I took it out. Just get it out of here. So
It's the
then
way that you coped, I guess.
yes, yes. And it's not healthy by any means. And I
Is
did
there a
this.
right or wrong way? I mean, don't you just have to try and find what works for you?
You do, but I think I was in denial for so long. I was angry. That was my first thing. I had a lot of anger, and then I was in denial because I'm still in my brain. He's coming home on Thursday.
Right.
So if I wasn't at work, well, I know I worked all the time. I had to remind myself I would be working on contracts in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
and I would have to remind myself that, "Oh, don't text them. They're sleeping." You can't text a lender at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'd learned to make notes. I still have sticky notes on my laptop. I had sticky notes everywhere because as a
I know.
widow, probably the hardest thing for me is you can't remember anything. It's like
What do you what do
your
you
memory's
think?
just gone. You can't remember anything. I think you're just so I don't know, you're so wrapped up in the physical part of it because I couldn't I changed agent hang on, I'm gonna fast forward a second.
It's okay.
June of 2019, I actually got fired.
Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode with the rest of the story with Jarah Decker. We'd love your support for the Real Tea with Robbie English. By giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel, it would really help us out. Be sure and share it with your colleagues and friends, and until next time, we hope you have a profitable and productive week.